So the new Fantastic Four movie is officially out, and I just wanted to give you guys my brief thoughts about this movie in general. I've seen this movie a total of twice now, and I gotta say, I'm a very happy kid. I'm a very happy kid. Anyways, let's get into it. So the latest MCU movie, Fantastic Four First Steps, is officially out, and this has been a while since we got a Fantastic Four movie in general, as recently Disney has acquired Fox. Well, not really recently, but in the past like 5 to 8 years, they've acquired Fox, and we've seen a bunch of stuff happening with that, such as Avatar, the movies with the Na'vi coming back on the big screen for a good chunk, and we're getting another one. We're also getting the Alien and Predator movies coming back as movies and series. So there's a lot happening now that Fox is under, or at least now it's called Century Studios, 21st Century Studios, as is under Disney now. So with Fantastic Four First Steps, Disney back, a lot of us were hopeful that did they get the Marvel's first family right? And I gotta say, they did, to a certain degree, and we're going to talk about why exactly I say that, or more specifically, why it's to a certain degree. Now, overall, Fantastic Four First Steps, I thought was a really solid, interesting movie, mostly because we're kind of thrown into the mix of the Marvel's first family in this iteration. It's very clear that this is not a main MCU Fantastic Four. We are on a different Earth. 838 or 833 or something, Earth 8 something. To be honest, I forgot the name of the Earth, but we are on a different Earth set in a retro 1960s era of New York City with a retro futuristic vibe to it. So automatically, the production design, the costume design, absolutely amazing, and you can see that across the board throughout the entire movie, to be honest. And with a movie that really had very little amount of time to do VFX work, or at least the post, I will say the VFX in this is really freaking solid in some instances. And there are instances where I'm looking at it, I'm like, oh shoot, they've used miniatures. And I think that's a really clever and unique way for Marvel to finally do their VFX this time around, as we haven't seen that before. So yes, they actually had the actor who played Galactus in a full Galactus suit, and they actually filmed him very similar, almost like in Godzilla in a sense, and I really did like that. They even created very similar to how Star Wars did it. They crafted their own little miniature of a spaceship, of the Excelsior ship. So it was really cool to see that there was that amount of practical effects and practical uses happening in this movie, and I really did enjoy that a lot, especially for myself. And so when we talk about Fantastic Four First Steps, I want to reiterate, this is a really interesting movie to start off on because we don't really get their origin story this time around. The past couple, we did get an origin story. We did get a sense of the family dynamic before they were a team and after they were a team. This is more, we're gonna skip that as the movie starts 4 years after they've already been the Fantastic Four, after the cosmic incident. And so it's really cool. I will say that is a pro and a con for me. It is a pro because we get right into the middle of it. We get to see how the family dynamic work with these characters. But it's also a con because a lot of the movie expects you to kind of already know the Fantastic Four. And I'm not saying this from a casual point of view, as in, they have, you know how they relate to one another, their powers, but this definitely feels like you need to understand them on a much deeper level, on a deeper lore level as far as who they are, especially Reed Richards, fundamentally, especially throughout the movie. As throughout the movie, there are some certain dialogues where as a fan, if you're watching this, you're like, yes, that is a very Reed Richards thing to say. Yes, I understand that. Yes, I feel that. But for a newcomer, it may not be as easily to understand some of these motivations. This is a very plot heavy and plot directed movie, and less on the characters normally. The main characters that really get the maximum amount of attention is really Sue Storm and Reed Richards, and you can instantly see that Pedro Pascal and Vanessa Kirby instantly hit it off in this movie. So I will give this movie that the chemistry amongst all of them are really well done and spot on, and I really did enjoy that. But one of the issues about the chemistry is that it leads you or expects you to just know a bit of them, of some of their issues beforehand, so we're kind of skipping over that. For instance, The Thing. I like The Thing as a character, and it sucks that he didn't get as much attention as I thought he would have in this movie. I like that he is very much one of the uncles of the family and very much the engineer of the family, but at the same time, I do wish that we got a little more of his struggle, because even though this is a very tight movie, a very tight script, and a very much push the plot along, we don't get enough room to breathe in comparison to, let's say, Superman, where Superman, even though it flies, there at least are instances in Superman where it does breathe a little. But in Fantastic Four, it very much is, it's very drama heavy, right? This isn't Superman where it's very lighthearted, there's dramatic elements. And to be honest, this is the one MCU movie where it doesn't have a lot of comedic elements at all. Yes, there are definitely some laugh out loud moments and a little chuckles here and there, but overall it doesn't rely too heavily on the comedy and focus strictly on the drama and the narrative that is presenting us. And so when it comes to the family, again, there's a lot to like about it, but also a lot left to be desired when it comes to the family as a whole and who they were beforehand and how they're going to be into this narrative. And so there's glimpses of it, but I wish we got a little bit more, and this is where I think the runtime does hinder the film's narrative a bit. This is an hour and 55 minutes, including credits. I definitely think it needed to be longer to really keep in the moment, stay in the moment with a lot of these characters and to really have them shine in their own way. They do have some really solid moments that are pretty memorable throughout, but at the same time, it leaves a lot left to be desired, to be frank. And again, I've seen this movie twice because the first time I'm like, dang, I really enjoy it. But at the same time, I felt like something was missing. And when I saw it the second time, I'm like, there it is. And that thing that was missing was just time. We don't have time to really feel for some of these characters or feel for this world. Yes, they did a solid job world building, but I really wish we got more of it so I could care about the stakes a bit later in the film when we get to Galactus. And speaking of Galactus and the Silver Surfer, Galactus was an absolute joy to view on the big screen. We all know what happened in Rise of the Silver Surfer and how they did Galactus there.
He is here.
Do I need to say anything else? No?
No, God! No, God, please, no!
You know what I'm talking about.
No!
Fucking ass purple cloud bullshit. But anyway, regardless, this Galactus was very dominating. He dominated the big screen. How they shot him felt so huge and massive in scale that it was really great to see. And the sound design they put around this character, both from the mechanisms and how he was connected to his ship, as well as when his eyes light up. Oh my,
Nice.
Like I said, I am a happy kid when it comes to this movie. But at the same time, I was a bit frustrated. But Galactus, he was definitely well worth to see in IMAX because he was just a beauty to see on the big screen while I have to look up at this massive man, this menace of a purple galactic man. That doesn't sound right, but it was still great to see him on the big screen, and I thoroughly enjoyed that. Now, when it came to the Silver Surfer, we did get a lot more than even I thought we would get with her. But at the same time, again, we don't get enough. I like what they were going for with her, and especially with Johnny Storm, where, yes, we don't get the Johnny Storm who's going over all the chicks and everything. I'm not going to use the term womanizer because that's not really him per se all the time. He's a playboy at heart, and that's kind of what he is. We don't get a lot of that, but we do get him trying to rizz up the Silver Surfer on times, and it is kind of funny. And especially the back and forth between him and the Thing and Ben Grimm as to like, oh, she dumped you? No. I just know now. So it is great to see, and I like that this version of Johnny Storm, we actually see a bit of his intelligence being used. He is very much the linguistics aspect of the Fantastic Four, and I like how each of the members actually kind of was one part of some of the sciences, and you really get a sense of that. It wasn't strictly just science as in space exploration, but we really have Thing, who represents sort of the mechanical aspect, the engineering, who has a love for cooking. We have Sue Storm, who's very more like a social science person, geopolitical science and all of that, as she forms and tries to get other nations in with her. She's a very social person, and Reed is the astrophysicist of the group. So I really like that with Johnny. He's more of the linguistics aspect, and that kind of reminded me of Arrival. It didn't go too deep into that, but I really like that he was able to take Shala Bal's native language and dissect it to the point where he can understand what the other sayings meant. So again, I really like that. It shows he's really smart. He's not dumb, but he is the dumb one in the group, I guess. But I really liked how they used him in that sense throughout the movie, and his relationship with the Silver Surfer and how that all transpired. I like that they got to meet in the middle sort of thing, and that he was able to really like, hey, this is what you're doing. I was able to do this, and you just brought him to my family, my planet, where you let him eat others because you wanted to save yours. Help me save mine. I like that. And the score, especially surrounding Silver Surfer in this movie, absolutely breathtaking. I think the score did a lot to help the movie, in its weak parts where the movie just couldn't do it on its own because they cut quite a bit out, or they just didn't have enough time, or put more time as intended, or I think as they should have. And so when it came to Silver Surfer, she looked great. She was very menacing and threatening at times as well. I did like how they utilized her in space, in the space action sequences. All of that was breathtaking. Visually, again, this movie is great. It looks amazing. You can tell the VFX artists really crunched hard on this movie, and it paid off in comparison to other Marvel projects where the VFX weren't all there. So I really did like that aspect of this film, and I think it was a solid overall ride. It's just I wanted more, and not in a sense of I'll wait to see more of it, but it's just I think the movie overall should have been a bit longer. And this goes into really the two films of Superman and Fantastic Four First Steps, where you have Superman that is a bit longer, but also still could have had it a bit more just to stretch and be in the moments. And you have this one where it's shorter than Superman, but it's still, it's that thing of like, they keep focusing on that plot, and I'm like, that's great and all, but I want more of that characters. We get a sense of it, only glimpse, but I wish we had a bit more to really hone in and how they feel, such as the Thing. Like, we don't really get a sense of him having regret or an insecurity about how he looks. Is more mentioned upon and touched upon, but not necessarily explored. And I do worry that we're not going to get those explorations in future movies, as Doomsday is coming up and Secret Wars is coming up, and we're about to get a soft reboot on everything. And that is a disappointing. I will say there aren't really large character arcs throughout the movie. Again, you're getting more of that from Sue Storm and Reed Richards, and especially when Galactus basically tells them, I will spare your world for your child because of how powerful your child is and what that child can do for me. So I did like the inclusion of Franklin Richards, and if we have Franklin Richards, if you're familiar with the Secret Wars story from the comics, especially the Jonathan Hickman run, and how that Franklin Richards is associated with all of that, you can clearly see where they're going to go with that character. And I think the MCU as a whole, and I do think once the reboot happens, certain characters are going to remember the previous timeline in the universe. And so again, overall, I think it's an interesting movie. It's an interesting way to introduce the Fantastic Four. And I do wish that it didn't end on the note it ended with, where it was a very lighthearted, the world is saved, where you can kind of tell they were going to go for the world was destroyed, and they go into the main Earth, especially after the post-credit scene and Thunderbolts. So it's interesting about the changes they've made for the sake of the next couple movies. And this is where it's like, I'm not gonna say it relied heavily on the main MCU, because it doesn't. Once you're thrust into this world, it feels so disconnected, and I really did enjoy that. It's its own movie, it's its own world, it's its own universe, and you get a sense of that. And I think that's one of the best parts about it, is that it is so separate from the MCU in comparison to the other MCU related projects in recent years. And I really did like that. You got a sense this is the Fantastic Four. We're focused on them. They use the characters to the best they can within the time that they had, even though I think that time should have been and could have been more. They did, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. It needed more. This movie went by way too quickly for me to feel a certain stake and care for a lot of these characters. And I guess that's really the biggest con of the movie. It's just like, I don't get enough time. Why should I care for the next one, especially when their world goes over? And to be frank, I'm sorry, if the public's telling me sacrifice your kid to save all of us, why on earth am I gonna save your ass? I'm sorry, why on earth? But I love that the speech that Sue Storm gave to the rest of the world, and you know how she was able to calm them down. And again, this goes into the societal aspect of her character, the sociology, and that. I really did enjoy that. She very much was a mother of the film, where Reed was still the leader in certain cases. It really felt more like it's the two heads of a household, the mom and the dad with the brothers, and those two worlds collide, you know? So again, I like the movie a lot. I just feel like it could have used more time. It could have used more exploration of these characters for us to really sit on them a bit more. Even though we did sit on them for quite a bit, I really wish we had more, because this was too quick of a movie. Even in my second viewing, I'm like, dang, we're already at Galactus? Hold up, we're already where he's about to come to Earth? Again, a lot of it felt very quick, even though the middle of the story did slow down a bit. So overall, would I recommend you seeing this movie? Absolutely. Definitely try to see it on the biggest screen possible. Definitely see it in IMAX. It is a beauty to see, to be honest. It's visually stunning. It is just a stunning, gorgeous film. And if you're a Fantastic Four fan, this is something you've been waiting for. I definitely think this is one of those movies. It's very sci-fi heavy, sci-fi first driven, and I did like that, especially when it came to the exploration aspect, and I'm happy we got that in the Fantastic Four in this movie. And so, yeah, it's like I had a good time. I just wish they did a bit more in service of the characters throughout the movie and the timeline and the time that they've been given. If not, this easily could have added probably an extra 15-20 more minutes just to really make it a bit more tighter. Again, this is already a pretty tight film and script. It moves quickly. You get from a lot of emotional beats to emotional beats, but we don't get too much to breathe within them to really like fixate and really settle in on these characters. And again, when it came to Galactus and the child, I'm like, yeah, you're not taking this kid. There are moments where Galactus is menacing. I cannot take that away from the man. He is menacing, he is intimidating. He is on that floor, he is going through the city. Again, great to see. I just wish there was a bit more and a better build up towards that. I will say this Reed Richards is very much Reed. Pedro Pascal does a great job. It shows the range of an actor he has. And a lot of people had worry, and even I had a bit of worry that, is he the right person? After viewing this, yeah, that is Reed Richards. And there's a line later on in the movie where he's basically telling his own kid, like, I don't want you to become me because I don't like certain aspects of myself. You can do better. And that hits from a character of who Reed is, because it's just like he thinks of the worst and he invites it, and again, that dynamic between him and Sue is so damn good. But it does rely on your Fantastic Four lore and knowledge beforehand to get into those mindsets. Because when I was watching that movie and when it came to that scene and a couple scenes between the two, I have heard audience members being like, huh? I don't get that. When if you're a Fantastic Four, if you know Reed Richards, I mean really know him on a fundamental level as a character from the comics, you would understand what he's talking about. So again, I really enjoyed the movie. I just wish we had more time with it. And so even though I do think it is a bit tighter, it's just like it left a lot to be desired, and I wish I could give it a higher score, which is why for a while I was sitting at a 4 because it's tighter a bit than Superman in certain instances. But after rewatching Superman a third time, yeah, I have a problem. But I would give it like a 3.5 or 4 still out of 5. Where it's like they're both in the same realm, and I'm gonna do another video on about which is better, or why it's okay to like both, especially in today's world. And so yeah, that's my 2 cents on Fantastic Four. Let me know, did you guys enjoy Fantastic Four First Steps? Let me know in the comment section down below, and I'll see you guys in the next video.